phrase these questions back to you that you just asked. You're asking, you're still struggling with staying alive, and then also staying alive against divey characters while still doing things with your team and still participating and healing and making sure you're visible to them and whatnot. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, it's like in situations where there's just a diver on the back line, and we're in that kind of pre-fight stage where everyone's just kind of poking and deciding who's going to make that first move. It's okay then, but like once like all hell breaks loose and there's a whole fight, and then I'm trying to keep my tank alive and my DPS, and then like, a Genji's in the back line trying to kill me. Like that's where it just gets really chaotic, and I'm just like, okay, what the should I do?
Yeah. Well, firstly, you don't want to like in most circumstances you're gonna try to get the Genji off of you. I mean, there's a couple where like if you have proper team support or somebody's like really close to dying, then maybe you can like be healing while you're just dancing and around and trying to get Genji off of you, and that sort of thing. But in a lot of cases you're going to want to try to address the Genji so he's not just left unchecked on top of you by using sleep, by using nade, running to your team. As we discussed before, you can stay inside of your team so that they can help deal with him as well while you're healing up, and then kind of have that healing as the second priority, because it's like you always want to think of it this way: if you die, then nobody gets healing. So it's better that you stay alive, right? Your life is more of a priority than like say someone else's. Like if you have to choose, do you die or does a teammate die? Unless there's there's always going to be that odd situation like where maybe you have that other person has a big ult that they have, right? Like maybe you don't have ult and they have ult or something like that, or they're just in a really good position to make a play. Unless that's the case, it's always more valuable to keep yourself alive than to keep a teammate alive, because you have the quote unquote carry potential within yourself. You're the one who's attempting to win the game for your team, so it's almost selfish in that fashion of that you're prioritizing your own life. But if you're prioritizing your own life, especially like as a support, you as the support are going to be able to heal more people and keep more people alive if you are alive. Whereas if you die, well, then that means that everyone else can die. And then also you want to treat your life as more valuable if you expect yourself to be better than your rank, right? Like if you expect yourself to climb out of gold, you want to treat yourself not as though you are currently, higher than gold, but, as though you have the potential to be. So you have the potential to carry, you are able to do that. Therefore, you're going to try to stay alive to actually leave an impact, whereas if you're dead, you can't leave any impact at all. You're kind of just leaving it up to the other gold players to win it for you. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Yeah. So that's why you just have healing as that set, like get Genji off of you, and then heal, and then there's some circumstances where you'd heal first. Make sure that you're just keeping good like line of sight on your team. So like we said before, you can firstly make sure you're sticking with your team, but then like if they're running like a dive or something like that where they're not sticking with you, then just make sure you have proper line of sight on them. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but you want to be positioning yourself not just so you can see them now, but also so you can see them in the future. You want to predict where they're moving to. So if our team, right, is all right here, and they're running a dive, and the point's over there, well, they're probably going to dive over to point. And if we're standing here, well, then, we can see them now, but if they dive to point, well, then we can't see them anymore, right? So we need to be able to push forwards, and if we're pushing forward, so they could just die in that time. Whereas if we position right here, well, now we can heal our team, and then if they dive, well, now we have easy line of sight on them. Does that make sense in terms of like how you pre-position for where they are going to go?
Yep.
All right.
Oh, sorry. I think on certain like maps, definitely it's a lot easier because kind of like especially like the payload or the push maps, you kind of know the flow of the map. I think maybe on some of like the King of the Hill maps, that's where it's a bit more challenging for me.
Of knowing
like
where your team's trying to go or where you should be.
Yeah. Like second, like Yeah, just in general, like for example, I think what is it? First point, Li Jiang. You know, you kind of know where you're
Yeah.
gonna play.
So
You're gonna play kind of in that corridor area, stairs.
why don't we talk real quick about like all of the I think we've kind of touched on them individually, but I don't think we've kind of combined all these points of just on a positioning, and this is applicable to a lot of support positioning as well. Of essentially when you're thinking of where should I be positioning at any moment, like you said, you do have those preset spots, but those preset spots are good because they kind of are a combination of all of the smaller points you've been going over. So whenever you're positioning, you want to basically check off as many positioning boxes as possible, right? So let's walk through a couple of those. What are a couple of the positioning things that we've talked about so far? What makes up good positioning?
So right now, I would say kind of, being away from the enemy team, that if they do engage on you, they have to expend like enough resources
Sure.
to
Yep.
get to you.
Being able to run away easily, right?
Oh
Escape
yeah,
options, right?
yeah,
That's
retreat
something. Hmm.
easily. Be in a position where you can see your team
Yep.
to
Exactly.
like proper LOS, right? Make
Yep.
sure you can heal them. Um, kind of where you're not taking a lot of damage, I guess. So like playing corners, using like natural cover,
Yep.
kind of help.
Good
You know.
positioning is the east of cover. Bad positioning is the abscess of
Yeah.
cover, right? Standing near corners.
Mm-hmm.
So yep, you,
Yep.
you got a bunch. So to add on the more, right? High grounds, right? High grounds are fantastic positioning. We've gone over off angles, right? No. Yeah, did we do that last time when we went over nade usage?
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah.
So that was the example where enemy team, our team, main angle, off angle, right? Chucking
Oh
it into
yeah,
side.
yeah.
Does that
Because
ring a
lately I've
bell?
been playing against because I've been playing against a ton of Sigmas and Rhines lately,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm having to kind of step aside to get nades off instead of
Yep.
just throwing them directly.
Yeah, exactly, and that's
Yeah.
off angling, right? So you have
Yeah.
to think through: am I able to off angle? Am I able to land my abilities more effectively, right? Because if you're because you can position yourself in spots where you're able to do that. So compare, for example, if enemy team, our team, compare the positioning of this, right, versus positioning over here. Well, that over there doesn't have easy access to the off angle, but if we're positioning right here, this has easy access to the off angle, right? Where you're able to do it kind of at any moment's notice, which leads for a lot more opportunities, right? So that's another checkbox, right? The more we can check off, the better the positioning, right? So some spots are going to have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's why those spots are the ones that you always go back and default to. Whereas in control points, you just want to be checking these off in your head and thinking, how many can I check off on these different positions? Another thing, right? So that's one checkbox right there. Another checkbox is going to be, can the enemy teams see me, right? If I'm positioning, if the enemy team's there and my team's here, why would I stand right here where, yes, I can heal, but the enemy team can just shoot me for free, right? And I'll take a lot of unnecessary damage. Whereas if I'm just flat up healing, there's no reason I should be peeking, so I just position where I can use cover. And then when I need to, I can peek to toss in nades and stuff like that, right? So just basically it's one step further of cover usage, but not just cover usage. It's actually having a spot where we can LOS the line of sight the enemy team and still heal our team. Another thing is, can I see my team? Right? I think I can't remember if you briefly mentioned that before, but being able to see your team is very important, right? So can you see your team, and can you see your team in the future from your position? Right? Yeah, I think that's a lot of them. Other minor ones are gonna be, is your team near? Are you near enough to your team for the situation? Do you have a health pack near you? Those sorts of things, right? All of that makes sense.
Yep. Yep. It does.
All right. Would you like to? Why don't do you in this? What was this code? Do you know what map it is? Let me see if I can get it up here. All right. Uh oh. It was BDF. Okay, so it's Route 66. Would you like to really quickly go and review just like a control point and kind of simulate going through those checkboxes in your head?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so let's create one real quick. Maps, none, control. You mentioned, do you have one in mind that you'd like to go over?
I guess Lijiang would be a good one.
Alrighty.
Now arriving at Lijiang Tower.
We're here to be heard.
Coming into the fight.
Some healing beats going.
The
It's in my bones. And slide.
just identify that. In your head
Beat will heal you up.
situation. And you'll be. Does that make?
Oh, sorry, my mic was muted. Yeah, yep, totally makes sense. Yep.
Scenario
What's out there?
first. I'm trying to. We could
Some healing beats going.
be standing over here, right? What would the
Pick it up, pick it up.
or the
You have, like,
check
that-
boxes?
Yeah, so you have the corner cover here. You have access to like a quick escape if you need to. The bridges there.
Oh yeah.
You have potentially a good line of sight if your team's fighting on point. You can heal. You can get nades. You can
team
apply some
support,
damage.
team support as well, right?
Yeah.
Because we're near them.
Yep. So if someone jumps on you, you can just kind of fold into your team. Your team could come to you. Yes and no. It really depends on how they're positioned. Like if they loop around on the backside, then maybe not. You might have to push back more, but I guess technically yes, you do. Because there's some. Yeah. Then we have access to a pretty decent off angle, I would say.
From like if they're right there and our team's here, where's the offense?
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant like they were coming through the further. So maybe no off angle here. So maybe.
Get some healing beats going.
Line of sight enemy team while healing ours, kind of, right? So notice this is a scenario, this is an example where you do have cover, but can you line of sight the enemy team and still see your team? Not really, because if you have teammates in on point, right, then you don't have the angle on your team, right? Whereas, let's say enemy team's over here, and our team's like on this side, well, now we can heal them and the enemy team's out of our line of sight.
Yeah.
Acts as a line of sight for enemies and
Okay. Yeah.
this be another option.
Would it be a good, like a bad idea to play in the house to like the right? Because there's a health pack. Because like a big thing for me is I try to play around health packs. So like, would it be maybe like if you have bridge control, then would it be a good idea as like Anna to set up in here on the corner? Yeah, and yeah, we have like bridge control there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Allow for better.
Sound therapy.
Mm-hmm. I would probably say like survivability would be just heavy dive comp, like because I don't know. I guess this is something I forgot to mention, but like the way the tanks are now, I find that a lot of the tanks just ignore my team and they just run at the backline and kill the backline quickly, and then they clean up after. So a lot of the times my team's fighting, and like an Orisa will just literally run through my entire team straight to me, kill me, and then I can't do anything. So I feel like a lot of the time now I'm focused on surviving, just because tanks can kill me. I have to get a lot of Sombras and Genjis. It's just like it's hard to stay alive. Yeah. Mhm.
To back
I think we can use some good
thing.
vibes.
So yeah, you would be fine here.
Oh yeah, move it.
And heal.
Yeah, 100%. It definitely does.
These through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some context on that replay. The first like match started, we got rolled pretty hard. But then we kind of stabilized. We ended up losing this game. It was pretty close to getting into OT. But I felt like it was something that there was just a lot of pressure on me and a lot of stuff that I was trying to do. Oh, I changed my name, so it's Major Kusan now. Instead of the Butcher. So yeah, that's me there. Yeah, that was kind of the thing. It's just survivability here. I was trying to just keep my team alive. A lot of times you'll see my team push up way ahead of me and I lose line of sight. And then I'm kind of stuck in this idea of, well, okay, I need to move forward, but then where should I position? Should I try to stay to the high ground? How far should I be back?
Okay,
Those are some of the kind of things. Yeah.
I'll try to help out with that. So here this is an example where your team is pushing forwards. If your team's all the way up here, it kind of depends on like, do you expect Monkey to instantly back up or not? If it's not communicated, just assume he's gonna stay in there, right? And then this is perfectly fine. To be perfectly fine place to be standing.
Sniper, be careful.
I'm here. Keep fighting.
See, this is a scenario where this is kind of, we need to be thinking about like, okay, where, not just where is Monkey, but where is Monkey going to go, right? And the answer is forwards, right? Because Monkey's just diving into their team. So we might want to adopt a closer for a position closer than we can peek. So just just remember to be thinking through, where are they going? A little bit short on those abilities. Okay. There, it looks like we kind of looked away from Monkey even before he died, so we went heal, heal. Oh, I guess never mind. We did look way out. So I misread that.
Yeah, we're just getting pushed here, so I'm just trying to continuously back up
Yep,
so I can keep my team like alive.
that is a good idea to back up. Wasted nade, we're full HP there, so watch the nades, and then also on top of that, like as Ana, you're not gonna even need it as often anymore. Like you want to use it against maybe like if you're being dove or you're in danger, but you just remember that you also just naturally heal over time as well now.
Enough whining. You're fine. This will cut the pain. I'm here. Keep fighting.
Massive sleep. Okay, Rhino goes and swings anyways. Great sleep. Nade here. Maybe a tad bit rushed when to the, and then also just make sure you're looking to hit the ground, not the person, because here, if we're just throwing it side, like we hit it like more like here, we could be getting like Reinhardt, Junker Queen, and right here. Many people as possible with it.
Stand up straight. Unsing your vitals.
Great nade.
You're powered up. Get in there.
Okay. Good nade.
Here, yeah. No, I think here, because I obviously watched this before when I was trying to find one. I don't know if this is a good nano or not. I want to say no, but the idea was Junkrat was about to ult. I see my Ryan kind of like going in, and I'm just wondering, like, okay, well, we're gonna lose this point, so maybe I should just try to salvage it as much as I can and just nano the Reaper because he can obviously do a crap ton of damage at close range. He might go in. I don't know.
All right, so let's go over a couple.
Process.
Let's go over a couple of these things. But firstly, let me address something you said there. Are you perceiving this to be a lost fight? And if so, what value would Nano get? Because you mentioned this being lost, and then you wanted to salvage it.
Yeah, so I assumed it was going to lose because once I heard the rip tire, I just assumed that like 2 or 3 people are going to die. That's just kind of my thought process. But then I have this kind of like inkling of hope. Like, okay, I know Reaper is kind of stupid, especially with Nano. So I was like, maybe, he can just go in and kill someone and we can get lucky, or it can just stall the team enough for, maybe we kill a few and they have to reset. That was kind of my thought process.
So let's go over a couple things then with that. Firstly,
okay.
I wouldn't necessarily assume that that the fight is lost just because you hear tire. That's kind of like, I mean, like you never really want to do that with any ult combos because it's always winnable until you see it happen, right? Like until you see tire kill 2 or 3, don't assume that it's already lost before that point, right? Then after tire kills 2 or 3, then that's fine. That's lost. Secondly, Reaper is pretty solid, and I don't think we've necessarily gone over like nano hierarchies, but typically the best and most valuable nanos are going to be combo nanos, right? So when you can combo with another ultimate are going to be the best nanos. Like, can you think of examples of combo nanos?
Yeah, so the most is obviously like Nano Blade, Nano Visor, Nano Beyblade, like Reaper's ult.
Exactly.
Usually, I guess those are the main ones, and then like Ryan. But I usually try to Nano Ryan if like maybe it's not a good idea, but I try to Nano Ryan if I know Ryan's close to his ult. I'll Nano him so he can get aggressive and get his ult quickly.
No, that's fine.
That's
yeah. So typically combos have the highest priority. Okay. So if you're coming into a fight right now, right, and you have the potential this game for Nano Blossom, right, and you have ult and Reaper's at 43, and you want to use Nano this fight, is it a good idea or a bad idea to hold on to it?
Hold on to it because he's not going to get his ult in this fight.
No, I would say use it. right? Because
Use it?
if Reaper is only 43 by the time you're at 100, that
Mhm.
means that you can probably get another one around the same time that he gets his ult, right?
I see. Okay, because it's about 2 minutes, yeah, for support to build it if you're doing it correctly.
Yeah, and that just means that so far he hasn't been doing a ton. Reaper hasn't been doing a lot, and you have
Yeah.
been healing a lot. And then also at the same time, you don't want to just give up the fight for free, even though you do have the combo to work with. So you'd only hold on to it if you see that he's really close to it, right? Like you see that you can get it. But then you would kind of go to the next priority. So way that you can make this very easy in your head, right, is you want to come up with a priority list at the beginning of each round. So at the beginning of each round, think to yourself, okay, who's the best person in Nano? Who's the second best person in Nano? Who's the third best person in Nano? Right? You come up with that list in your head. Sometimes you can do 4. You can do the 4th. But you want to come up with that priority list because if the best person in Nano, for example, doesn't have their ultimate, right? Like Reaper, and you want to use Nano, who do you go for secondly? If they're, for example, if you need a Nano and that person's dead or out of commission or you can't see them, right? Who's the second person? And for the same reason, who's the third person? This makes it so that you don't really have to panic and make the decision in the middle of the fight because you've already kind of pre-planned it ahead of time. So
Mhm.
after ult combos, the second kind of most important, like highest value nano is going to be consistency within a nano. A lot of times tanks are kind of going to be that second best option because tanks get a lot of value out of the damage reduction because
Mhm.
they have a lot of health that gets damage reduced. They get the most value out of the healing because they have the most health to heal. They also, a lot of times, have very consistent damage. It's hard to miss and mess up with a Reinhardt swing, right?
Mhm.
But if you're like Widowmaker, well, you're not going to be hitting every headshot, right? So that would
Yeah.
make most hit scan characters not great, base hit scan characters not great nano targets because it's
O-
not consistent whatsoever, right?
Okay.
And that's the big, and that's why as well with when you think through the ult combos, all the ult combos are consistent, right? Nanovisor, it's hard to mess up with a Nanovisor. Nano Blossom, it's pretty easy. Nano Blade, fairly decently consistent, right? Um, and then you also have some other nanos you can do, like just like a tempo nano, just to get it in there. But once again, usually DPS combos are the best, tanks are kind of the second best, and then you can go back and then other DPS are gonna kind of fill in. Some are better than others within that,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
So if you were to let's say, firstly, let's do the enemy team, and you can do conditions on it as well. So let's say instead of the Mercy, I'm the Ana. I'm going to come up with the enemy team. Who should I be nanoing? Honestly, they don't have a ton of great nano targets, so I'd probably say like Junker Queen number 1, Junkrat number
Yeah.
2, and that's about it. Like maybe very rarely if I'm forced to one of the other two, but that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so what would you say would kind of be your priority list for your team?
So for my team right now, it would be Reaper, then Reinhardt, Moira, then Tracer. Because I feel like Tracer, and I don't know because I don't play a heck of a ton of Tracer, but I feel like she's kind of off to her own devices anyway, looking for
Mm,
picks, and maybe she can just farm her pulse bomb quickly.
yeah.
Moira ult seems pretty strong, so that's why I
Mm.
put her before
Yeah, and
Tracer.
once again, just make sure to add those connotations of
Okay,
with ult,
okay,
without ult, right? Because otherwise
yeah,
you're just nano. So like I would, for example, say Nano Blossom comes before Reinhardt, but
mhm.
Reinhardt comes before normal Reaper.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Mm,
So in that situation, then from an alt perspective, I would say Nano Blossom consistency be the number one priority for a
mm,
combo standpoint. If we don't have any ultimates available, Reinhardt would be number one due to a few reasons. So tempo, if
mm-hmm,
we're trying to push or make space, that
mm-hmm,
allows him to get more aggressive, also helps him build
yep,
ult charge. He gets a damage reduction, right? The healing, things like that.
mm-hmm,
Um, Reaper, maybe if I see the Reaper is close to an ultimate, or the Reaper is getting a lot of value flanking and disrupting the back line, maybe a Nano might be good on him. Then Moira, just because Moira has some pretty strong dueling potential with some flankers, and her ultimate is annoying, and I feel like it
Mm.
can get a few picks. So
Yeah.
getting and support ultimates usually help swing the fight regardless. So I feel like that would be a good third option. And then Tracer would be my last because she's more, from at least what I understand, is a character that's kind of on her own and she does her own thing, and her job is just to
Yeah.
secure picks.
So I would tweak it. You're for the most part dead on. I'd make a few tweaks. So you're right. Rebirth Blossom, then Reinhardt is number 2. Number 3, I would probably put Nano Coalescence as number 3.
Okay.
Because it's a little bit higher consistent. Like once again, it's a little bit easier to land a Nano Coalescence than it is to land shots as Reaper. Then after that, I would do normal Reaper as kind of number 4. And then you don't need to go further than that. You can. Don't feel like you need to, because that might take a little while to go further than that every single time. But if you were to go further, right, and you do the full fleshed out thing, it would be, Reaper Blossom, Reinhardt, Nano Coalescence, regular Reaper. Then I would probably say that Tracer does come before like a normal Moira, because normal Moira doesn't do enough damage to where like Nano would even really make a difference. People can usually just still, even if you nanoed a Moira, people probably still be able to just run away and get around the corner before she's able to do anything.
Okay.
Just because she doesn't do enough base damage. So she'd probably be last. But yep. And then Nano Tracer, I mean, like, she's not the biggest thing with her is that it's just inconsistency. It's hard to land her shots to where it's going to get value out of the Nano, but it's still not the most atrocious thing. I would still Nano her above a Moira or a Lucio or a Mercy, unless Mercy is Valk.
Yeah.
Right, that sort of
Okay,
thing.
that makes sense. Yeah, maybe like if Tracer also, like, usually when it's like end of game point is being contested, like Nano Tracer might be able to stall as well, for like longer, maybe.
Exactly. Yep. All right. So
Okay.
in this situation right now, that is currently still winnable. Okay. Reaper does not have ult. Who should we be nanoing?
So I would probably say the Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, from this POV, you can see he's charging in, but also, like you spoke about before, they're a safe option. He's not going to miss a lot with his swings. Can help create more space and kind of.
So definitely Reinhardt. He's also lower health, so and probably a little hair more in danger, so it'd be better on him as well. Now third, so okay, we've already established wrong target. Secondly, how close is Reaper to any? Or sorry, what range is Reaper as a character?
He used to be like in your face pretty much. So
close.
He's nowhere
to
near
mid.
the team right now. Yeah.
Close to mid. Yeah, and yeah, like you said, how close is he to the enemy team?
Not close at all.
Yeah, so what is he going to be able to accomplish with Nano?
Yeah. I think that was a situation where I think I got a little like flustered. There's too much stuff going on, and I heard tire go off, and my first instinct was, okay, I'm going to nano someone, and Reaper was in front of me.
Yeah. So once again, one of the easy ways to combat kind of that flustered nature of like, what the heck do I do in this situation, is to have that pre-plan, right? Because when you have that pre-plan in your head, not just of the, firstly of the overall game, but then also for the fight. You should be in this fight, right? Before the fight even begins, like back here when you're running away, you should be looking and going, okay, I'm 80% to my ult, right? You should be planning ahead what you're doing. Same thing as we were talking about last time with your ability, so you can plan ahead for how are you using nade when it's still 7 seconds away. You can plan ahead when you're 20% away in your ult and think through, okay, Reaper's nowhere close to his, I should probably nano Reinhardt this fight, right? That way, when the fight does start, it's not a sudden jar, oh, I'm nanoing this person, right? It's not a rash decision, because you already had that pre-planned when you had the time for it, right? So that's gonna help in those scenarios, and then also just as with time as well as just like I would encourage you to just practice like during fights trying to not get yourself flustered. This is something that you'll get the longer you play. It'll just become kind of the same old, oh yeah, I'm getting dove again sort of thing.
Yeah.
But also I'd encourage you just like, take some deep breaths while you're playing. Try to catch yourself when you're getting flustered and like kind of pull yourself back into the moment and think through your decisions. So just kind of be conscious while you're playing about it.
Mhm.
And then also, like I said, it'll come with time, and planning ahead does help a ton with it as well.
Okay.
Right. Well, let's keep going.
I'm here. Keep fighting.
Okay.
Keep amen.
A lot of overheal nades. Watch your health bar, right? Not going
Mhm.
to be necessary whatsoever if we're 100 and 200 HP. We're throwing nade, right?
Keep amen.
Also, we messed up the sleep. That stinks. Also, try to use sleep just like a bit earlier because that shuts her down
Okay.
faster. Like we kind of wait on sleep for like a good like 7 seconds, right? You do want to put
Mhm.
effort into it and don't rush it, but at the same time, this feels a little slow, like we're holding on to it. Um, Whereas here, we can maybe push into the Junker Queen, right? And if we push
Mhm.
into her, that makes the shot easier than the further away we are, right? So you can probably run forwards, kind of like we do, and just try to get sleep on her. This means that our team's able to follow up sooner. It means that we can get her off of us sooner, so that just think of it this way as well. Like the 7 seconds that we're dancing around with Junker Queen, we're not helping our team out,
Mhm.
right? And actually participating in the fight. So it's kind of wasted time on our end. Um, And then also consider like you can kind of run at her with the sleep here because she doesn't like think through what if she really she can't block it. She doesn't have anything that can really like one tap you if you were to push into her. Um
Mhm.
so you could probably just run and land the sleep. Unfortunately we miss it. Probably request some healing, get your other sword to look at you.
Healing you.
Oh, that's where we want the nade. So watch the health bar, watch the
Yeah.
nade. Probably chucking it. Oh, we'll see. So I was thinking here we can probably you see they're all grouped up. This is like identifying. Oh, they're grouped up. This is where we can be chucking in a nade. I think we go for a couple more shots, and we do chuck in a nade. Remember that scope tech that we talked about that can maybe
Mhm.
help out with that. Great nade though. You get 2 of them, but if we did it like a couple seconds earlier, we get 4. All right. Our team probably must be regrouping right now. I don't know why we have people pushing. But currently, you always want to take the time between every single fight to position to the best place possible for the next fight. So for the next fight, right, we have a couple options of where we can be.
So from here, it's probably going to be the top left on that like little walkway there.
This.
That's
Okay.
kind of yeah. It's, I feel like it's the safest because I can pretty much see everything, and I can also retreat back into
Okay.
that
So
third
let's
point, I guess.
talk through a couple of that. So what are you thinking? Like here-ish, here-ish, something like that?
Yeah, playing like this area here because I have the kind of like the stone pillars to
Hmm.
peel to kind of peel for me. I have visibility to the enemy team coming in, and then also like if they try to flank from the top left, sometimes, or like that little room to the left. I don't know what it's called, but
Hmm.
I can have sight lines there as well.
Okay.
So
So
this is where I tend to usually play most of the
okay,
time.
let's talk through a couple. Let's go through the check boxes, right? So,
Okay.
check 1, we got high ground, right? That's pretty
Yep.
obvious. Check 2, we got cover, right? We have cover that we can use. Check 3, can we see our team? Yes, we can, right? Great team positioning, going pretty solid, right? Now, let's go through a couple more, right? No, we don't have health packs from here. If they were to get on top of us, which they don't really have us, like they're running, maybe Junk can, but that's about it. We can't really, we're not really by our team. Let's think through, what do we do to escape? We go this way. Okay, when we go this way, do we have cover?
No, we're in the open.
Yeah, now we're in the open. So that's maybe one disadvantage, one weakness of this positioning. Okay. Can we land our abilities more effectively from this angle?
I would say maybe yes.
Yeah,
Just
maybe.
because, like, if they're pushing in, like a nade might be a lot easier to hit than me standing on the
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe like a tad bit easier, right? Like it add in a little boost, right? And then like really the big thing I would say with this spot in particular is that it's very dangerous. In that if you become under any pressure, you're pretty much dead. Essentially, is what I would
Yeah.
say, right? So like, let's say Junkrat starts looking at you, and starts like, let's say he throws a mine around this corner. Like, where are you gonna like if Junkrat starts tossing shots at you? Where do you run, right? Like you drop to your
Yeah.
team. Oh, I'm dead smack in the middle of the open. Get him out in the open.
Hmm.
If like you said, okay, and they start shooting at us. We go. Oh, we're out in the open. we have to run on. Goes top or right. If Junkrat goes top right, right? Like it's really like if anything happens whatsoever, which it probably will, we are out in the open, right? Which is
Hmm.
probably the main issue here. But it doesn't mean that this is like right here on this top right. Okay. Well now, okay, same thing. High ground. Maybe okay, like same thing. We can see our team, right? They're on high ground, we can see them. They're on low ground, we can see them. Maybe playing off the stairs. Okay.
Hmm.
Maybe this offers a tad bit better of an off angle because now not only do we kind of have the high ground kind of over top of them, we're over them. So if they're underneath us here, no shield's going to be blocking us. We can just chuck. This is going to make it so if we back up, well, now we can back up with our team, not through the open, having plenty of cover. A bit better with abilities, and then the big thing being you actually can escape easily, and then it covers all of the other.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I'll keep you up.
Okay, especially when you have your Reinhardt there, don't be afraid and run away. It's like a 2v1. Potentially look for the
Hmm.
sleep on her, because then that opens up pretty much a free kill, right? If Reinhardt lands that charge. So just remember
Okay.
that's how that's how you can be securing values, just by being a little bit more aggressive in that situation.
Take this.
Alright. So let's start to wrap up a hair. Alright. So ability usage, definitely still working on the things we talked about last time. I think it's better, definitely better than it was last time. We're actually using them. I would say just be really careful, especially like sleeps. I think we need to work on landing still. Nades, I would say just be careful that you're not throwing too many healing ones when they're not needed. I saw like a 3-ish of those, right, where we'd self nade or teammate nade when it just wasn't doing anything, or it wasn't needed at all, and then just look for higher value with it. We didn't watch too much gameplay, so maybe we saw a bit more later on in that, but definitely just still keep working on that. Overall, can't remember what it was last time, but maybe put it around like a medium priority or so for you to work on.
Yeah,
That was like
we had
medium high last
ability
time.
usage. Yeah, it was like medium high, and then the second and the top priority was like nade and sleep usage, and then secondary was awareness. And then we said we left nanos out because we didn't see any in the last one, and
Yeah.
then it was just like mechanics is the last.
Yeah. So then next comes Nano, right? Nano come up with that plan ahead of time, right? One, two, three. Come up, best priorities. Come up with kind of the contingents, like what does it rely on? Yeah, like do they have ultimates? Do they, and what happens if they don't have ultimates or things like that. Also, make sure that if you're nanoing someone of a close range, that you are doing it when they're actually at a close range. Overall, that one was probably about a medium priority for you to work on.
Okay.
Mechanics. Honestly, I don't think we saw anything in mechanics. I don't think, not too much. Scope usage was fine. I didn't see, besides the nade usage, I didn't see too much overhealing. So overall, not really a category for this session. Then we got positioning. Positioning, we talked about a load of stuff with positioning, right? Where should you be positioning at any which moment? Think through all those different boxes in your head. Check boxes, check them off, right? Can you see your team? Can the enemy team see you? Do you have better average ability to land abilities, right? Do you have a high ground? Do you have a health pack? Which is kind of one of the more minor ones. Some of these are more important than others, right? Do you have a way to escape, right? If I need to back because I am pushed, where do I go? That one's pretty important.
No wonder I can't
Think
retire.
through, like, do I have cover? Am I close enough to teammates? That sort of thing. Overall, though, even though there's a lot of stuff we covered in it, I still don't think that's like super duper high on your list. Honestly, I'd probably still put that like low to medium, like higher end of low to medium, right? Even though we go over it, I don't think it's as big of a struggle. And then finally, getting into awareness, pay attention to your health bar and teammate health bars. Make sure you're not over nading, right, on yourself and enemies. Generally, pay attention to just the flow of the fight. I would recommend, for the purpose of knowing your team comp and knowing team comp swaps and knowing ult charges, you should be pressing tab at a very minimum of once in between every single fight of the game. Right, that's like a minimum of how much you should be pressing it. This gives you a lot of info to work with. Just make sure you're pressing it, and pay attention to the team composition. Team comp dictates how you play as Ana and any other character. Pay attention to kill feed and just are you winning or losing, and then general surroundings as well. Overall, that one probably went to about a medium priority for you to work on as well. So kind of a lot around the middle. So to pick something out, it's kind of evenish. So honestly, I'd kind of leave it up to, maybe you can do, like, I think we talked about last time, like you can do ult usage with something. So I'd maybe do ult usage with something, right? Because you can usually do that individually. So maybe try ult usage with ability usage. As like kind of you're tied for number 1. Number 2 is awareness, and then number 3 being positioning, and then mechanics not really on the board for the moment. Yeah, that makes sense. Any questions?
Yeah, no, makes total sense. Yeah, just one. Like, what is there like? And I know it really depends on how much damage your team's fights happen, but like, let's just say like, all things being equal, both enemy teams are applying kind of around the same amount of damage to each other. It's a close game. How much healing is good healing? Because I remember at the beginning of the call, I told you like the last few days have been a little rough. Like I'm getting out healed by like Kariko, which I don't think I should be, right? And then people are like, calling me out, and and I know I'm missing shots. Like my accuracy went way down because I'm usually around like a 65, 67% accuracy, and like some of these games were like sub 50. So I knew I was just really tired. I shouldn't be playing right now. But like, what is average? Is there like a target? that
I
should
wouldn't be too focused on the stats. Be
Okay,
more
okay.
focused because certain stats, right? Like for example, enemy sleep dart accuracy. That's important.
Mm.
Biotic grenade kills. If you're getting towards the end of a game and that's at like 3, then that means that you didn't really do very much with your anti-nades, right? Now when it comes to healing, unless it's outrageously low, I would say I'm trying to think in my head. Like I think
Like on average,
'Cause it
I'm
depends-
always at least over 3,000.
yeah,
I
like
don't know,
per
like
3,000 per 10, like or like what's the per time limit?
oh,
'Cause
like
usually
oh,
the
I see what
stats
you're saying.
usually the stat is per 10.
Okay, so at the end of the game, I'm at least sitting at like around like 8, 9, like 8+ K healing for the whole game.
Eight
Okay, I
plus
see.
8 for the whole game. So like for
I guess-
example,
yeah.
I don't like if I'm just looking at one of my buddies that I play comp with. This is like a top 20 player or something like that. Like I don't know what he is right now. He's like top 30. He's Grandmaster 1 right now.
Okay.
Right. If I go to his stats, competitive, he's playing Ana, and we go to where is it at? And we go to the snap. Where is healing? Do you see it anywhere?
I see healing done. You scroll down.
Healing
Oh,
done.
that's max
Total
healing,
best
though. That's
average for 10
max.
minutes. Okay, healing done per average per 10 minutes. This guy, he has 9.7. Now that's
Okay.
probably going to be like it really going to depend because lower ranks people first like it's really varies because
Yeah.
the lower you go, the more people will feed, so there's more healing to be done, but at the same time people don't hit as many shots, so there's less healing to be done. I don't know if I go and compare that to another friend who is not at that rank. I don't know if I can find someone off the top of my
I guess
head.
it makes sense. Like higher ranks, there's a lot more
Yeah, I would say it's probably, generally speaking, it's probably going to be a bit higher the higher rank you are.
heal as much. Yeah.
Yeah, generally speaking, I'd say that's probably how it's going to be. So
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't get too focused up on it because really, ultimately, if people are dying around you, you're not healing enough.
Yeah.
Right. That's more of the target of like, okay, if if there's people dying that you could have healed, that's where you could have healed. That sort of thing. And then like if it's just like really bad, like your healing per 10 is just like significantly low. The other thing you can do is kind of compare it to the other people in your lobbies of like if your healing per 10 is just consistently like maybe check like at the end of each game for the next 10 games, 20 games, check, okay, what's my healing per 10 in comparison to the other Anas and in my games, that sort of thing. And you can compare it that way. But really, I focus more on the, not just on the like the raw stat, but on the like underlying, what would even lead to healing being needed in the first place, or like why would I not be healing, that sort of thing.
Okay.
I think healing per 10 isn't really necessary if a stat to look at. Same thing as like damage. It'd be kind of the equivalent to damage. Never do I really think damage is ever a stat, unless it's like atrociously low. It's not a stat that DPS players should really be looking at. It's not really like if someone asked what should my damage per 10 be, that's not really something that like is a necessity, because if you're like, you just need to think through, okay, like, well, how much damage do you need to do? You need to do enough damage to kill somebody, right?
Yeah.
You need to do enough healing to get people to not die. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, any other questions?
Not right now. I would say like a lot of stuff to work on. I'd say like Outside of playing Ana right now, what I've been trying to do, especially on like King of the Hill type maps, is where if we have a Ryan, I'll usually wait to see what the other support picks, and then if not, I'll pick Lucio. I've been trying to play a little bit more Lucio lately. It's been pretty fun, but what I tend to do now is I'll look at like
You're powered up.
the team
Get in
comp
there.
ahead of time and say, okay, well, do I need Ana? Do I have any good nano targets? If not, maybe I can play like someone else. But
That's very fair.
yeah, yeah. But overall, no questions right now. I think just trying to get used to the games now with Kariko in them. It's a little
Yep.
different when people just ult and Reaper comes at you at like 100 miles per hour.
Yeah. And so a couple things with Kiriko, right? Firstly, feel free to nade her when everyone hops in her ult, because that's when they're gonna all group up, right?
Yeah.
And then also just be careful about her cleanse ability. You might want, if they're running a Kiriko, you might not want to be so flippant of just tossing in nades, because it's a important cooldown, a 10-second cooldown, and if she just if she has cleanse available, then it's not really going to do as much, right? So save it for when you see big nades. So like if you see a 5-person nade, well then they might not be able to cleanse everybody, right? And then the second thing is going to be on top of that, it's just going to be try to wait it out, right? Or wait till she's not close enough to actually do anything. So like she's dead, out of position. Same thing with like tanking abilities, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've been trying to pay attention to what she's doing. I'll see like usually, because I believe that's 14-second cooldown. So I try to wait until she uses it. But I mean, at my level, all the Krikos in my game just int. They're all like trying to flank and kill you, and they die. So
Notified.
I don't really know what a scary Kriko looks like yet.
Fair enough. All right, man.
All right.
Yeah. Have a good game.
All right.
Schedule the next one for whenever, and